Okay, let's see what we got today, inshallah. Right. Okay. So right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafa. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله عليكم ورحمته تعالى وبركاته. Shukran people, I take it you can all hear me fine. Am I correct? Right, let me see. Right. Kimberly, Yasin, Alayhi Salam, has Jamrock, Imam Hassan, awrah, look at that, Sheikh Saeed. Right, we got some people. Umar Al-Hallak has come on, wa Alayhi Salam. I am well, shukran Nick, I am indeed. Hope you guys are all well as well. Right, so Halima there with a question. Let's I'm going to try to get the questions also sent to me, so hopefully you don't have to repeat them. Right, Abu Zahra, Adam. Right, shukran. People, I take it you can all hear me okay. Shaykhana Muhammad Ali, ahlan wa sahlan wa tasharrafna بحضورك. Right, فعليكم بالإمام مالك. Alright, way to go. Right, Jamaluddin, ahlan wa sahlan. Right, so let's take some of these questions that are coming through. A question on hair extensions. Right, I'm just double checking that I'm going to be having questions sent through. Right, so okay, so now shukran Momo, shukran. Right, are hair extensions haram? Now this is going back to the hadith. First of all, my understanding is hair extensions are not, let me just put the sound down on this. Hair extensions are not haram. This is going back to the same hadith where the prohibition arises, and that's the hadith la'ana Allahu al-wasila wal-mustawsila wal, and it goes on, al-washima wal-mustawshima, and it mentions the tattoos, and it mentioned wal-namisa wal-mutanammisa or namisat wal-mutanammisat, and so on. Now this hadith, generally the Maliki ulama, so if you read Sheikh Dardir in his Aqrab, or the commentaries on it as well, Sheikh Al-Adawi and other people as well, Dasuqi and so on, the ulama have highlighted that this, especially discussing the plucking of the eyebrows, that the ulama highlight that this is in reference to the woman sitting in her iddah. Okay, and that too, the iddah of the mutawaffa anha, the iddah of the widow, what in Arabic they refer to either as ihdad or hidad. Right, now this is a period, a time, usually 4 months, 10 days, a mourning period during which the woman will refrain from kind of generally doing herself up and things like this, and it's a state of mourning that she's in because her husband has passed away. Now, the ulama said that was referring to them. Okay, so based on that, following that understanding, I would say that the other things mentioned in the hadith are also, because they say that this hadith is referring to the woman, the al-muhtadda, the one in her ihdad or her hidad, and therefore the same thing would apply to extensions. Okay, now I would put a little caveat on that the ulama do highlight as well that deception. Now, deception in general is wrong. So, and it is deemed immoral. So, if somebody was, now there is a certain amount of maneuverability. Okay, you can maneuver. So, let's say somebody was going to get married. Now, so let's say a girl has hair extensions and things like this. Now, to a certain extent, girls will have makeup and they will probably have certain things that may be artificial. So, for example, I don't know, nails and stuff like this, or maybe some eyelashes. But there's a certain level of al-muta'araf, or what is ma'roof in the nas. Okay, so as long as there's that level of maneuverability, which is in general acceptable, people understand that there will be a certain level of makeup, a certain level of artificial, I don't know if you want to call it an artificiality or you want to call it a veneer, a certain level of a veneer. Now, the difference is if the whole thing is a veneer. So that is obviously, so if a person comes now and then she's taking her wig off and she has no hair, obviously the other person will be kind of shocked that, what the hell? Whoa. I'm sure you've all seen that clip where a person takes one thing off, then the other person takes, and then the woman takes everything, and it's like, then it's just practically a man underneath. So obviously that's the caveat, that it's not talking about deception in that, but to some extent there's always a level of kind of makeup and a veneer to some extent, and that's acceptable really. It's not something, it's what people know. That said, I saw this thing on Facebook actually not so long ago about this woman who, oh my god, pre-makeup and post-makeup, they literally were two completely different people. I would say that obviously in an area of that could be deceptive is unacceptable, just as that would be unacceptable by any, I mean, if that woman went missing, God forbid she went missing, you'd never be able to retrace her using those photographs. I mean, she would never get through airport security with those photographs unless she happens to have that level of makeup on. So, anyway, let's move on. The next question. Why are Muslims buried and not cremated? Well, Robin, that's a good question. Allah says, وَمِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ, and we created you from the earth. وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ, and into it or onto it we shall return you. وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى, and from the earth Allah shall bring us forward, and as you know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust kind of thing, and that is where we have come from, and that is where we shall return. It's a natural way. Allah speaks in the Quran of the two sons of Adam who fought each other, and one killed the other and didn't then know what to do with the body. Typical scenario, happens to all of us once we've typical murder 101, that what do I do with the body? So instead of saying, Siri, how do I dispose of a body? So the thing was, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran that He sent a raven or a crow, and as they kind of symbolized that one of them, they kind of pecked at each other, and then one of them kind of pecked at the earth and kind of made a shallow, very shallow kind of grave version, a version of a grave, if you like, and kind of tipped the other crow in and covered it, and from there this son of Adam gets this inspiration. Oh, right, so maybe I should bury the body. Not to but I mean the ritual emerges. It's an Islamic understanding. That said, if a human was cremated, if a Muslim, obviously humans are cremated, but if a Muslim was cremated, it does not mean that they will somehow be obstructed from their akhirah. Their akhirah will remain the same. Okay, it has no bearing, zero bearing on the deceased. But generally the way is that a person is buried, okay, and that they kind of, or I don't know, they degrade back into the earth. That's the general understanding. When the Prophet ﷺ said the Deen is white, what did he mean? Well, Waqar, that actually meant white supremacy, and I thought you would have understood that. Where on earth did the Prophet say he made the Deen white? I've got no idea what you're talking about. You need to lay off those, the Mein Kampf, Hitler's autobiography. I think what you're talking about is where the Prophet ﷺ said, تَرَكْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْمَحَجَّةِ الْبَيْضَةِ. Okay, the kind of, I've left you on the enlightened path, or the lit path. It's lit, people, it's lit. So the thing is, that لَيْلُهَا كَنَهَارِهَا, that its night is like its day, meaning that it's very clear. Okay, لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك, that none shall go astray except one who wants to perish. Okay, so it's talking about clarity. Asma here from Gloucester. Well, ahlan wa sahlan, Asma. Giving me a headache with your hearts. Okay, he's getting lips injected, haram. Abul Hassan, what do you mean by that? But I take it you're talking about the kind of makeup. Is that what you're talking about, where lips are augmented and they have like something to push up their lips? Is that what we're talking about? Or are you talking about generally some other kind of... if you are talking about the makeup, I forgot the technical term for it now, but there is it like having, I think they call it derma threads, or that might be something else, but it's like a kind of Botox before the lips, a lip augmentation to kind of like fill it up. I don't believe that's haram. Many of the ulama as well from Al-Azhar and other places have given fatwa on cosmetic surgery, that cosmetic surgery is not haram. They have highlighted that in the Quran Allah says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, that we created insan in the best of formations. Okay, that insan in general is supposed to be in the best of formations. Then through Allah says, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ, but then through fertilization, through populous growth and so on, people and through people mating and having children and kind of spreading DNA, we have the results that we have. So somebody, for example, I don't know, we have different colored hair, skin, eyes, but that's okay, that's just different texture. But then somebody might have, so your ears might be out here, you might have a really long nose, like unfortunately, see, this is the Pakistani gene, I can't do much about that. So the thing is, when you are stuck with something happens to you, it's not that Allah makes you like this. Allah obviously gives you life, but your parents have come together and they have, their DNA have crossed and given you these genes. So, I don't mean to pick on us, I say us Pakis right now, us Pakistanis, because I'm from you guys. Guys, by the way, what do you think of the ice? Awesome or what? Check that out, man, check that out. Sophia, alright, making spherical ice balls right there, man. That's what I'm talking about. All about perfecting the drink, right? So I've had to buy that gadget that makes spherical ice balls. Anyway, it's a selfie camera for anybody having a sudden retarded taqwa attack on why am I drinking with the left hand. But the thing is, so this, you see, it's your parents' genes that have come together and they have then obviously resulted in you. And then obviously you're going to have your kind of phenotypes and the genotypes. And the thing is, well, look, you have to understand that when, let's take, and I say this about Pakistanis just as an example, that when you're going to have a lot of marrying your cousins, which, right, I totally disagree with, but it's part of the Pakistani culture. When you're going to do things like marry your cousins, right, the DNA is going to say, well, give me some room to play with here. I mean, because the thing is, okay, a one-off marrying your cousin is, well, as long as there's a lot of mixture going on with the DNA and the genes, so they are mixing. But if, let's say, if two people marry their cousins, and then they just marry their cousins, and they marry, this is just one, if the mum and dad are both cousins, and their mum and dad were just cousins, and their mum and dad were just cousins, then bloody hell, I mean, there isn't much play for the genes, is there? It's not really, it doesn't really have much room to maneuver, does it? It's like, well, for God's sake, it's like, help me out here. So the thing is, you are going to get sometimes very strange, and this is why you get sometimes all siblings just look identical, and everybody just looks the same, and it's obviously embarrassing at parents' evening when the mum and dad just look like brothers and sisters. But the thing is, so if people are unhappy with a certain aspect of their appearance, and now Allah has opened upon us as a collective, as a humanity, that we have reached the knowledge, the science whereby we can alter certain aspects, we can fix. So remember, these are things which people are already uncomfortable with. So to fix them, there is no harm in that, and they call it in Arabic jarahat al-tajmeed, obviously cosmetic surgery. And ulama have given fatwa. There are plenty of fatwa from the ulama of Al-Azhar saying that these things are permissible. This is not altering the creation of Allah to distort it. The verse of the Quran where he says, the shaitan says, وَلَا أُغَيِّرَنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ وَلَا آمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَا يُغَيِّرَنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. This, that I will command them that they will cut the ears and do this. This was talking about disfiguring. It was not talking about enhancing. Okay, and I know many of the ulama do take it as a blanket statement, but it does not mean that necessarily. It's talking about a disfigurement. Okay, otherwise, doing things like circumcision is a disfiguring. Why would, the same argument would apply for circumcision then? Why is that allowed? If you were never allowed to alter the creation. I mean, somebody could argue that, if Allah didn't want us to have a foreskin, right, why create it in the first place and then tell you to cut it off? I mean, what is the purpose of that? So if you're going to, it's either one argument or, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're going to hear any alterations are haram, but at the same time, we can do the alterations we want. So you have to understand that alterations that are supportive or helpful are permissible by default unless proven otherwise. So circumcision is encouraged, and it's from the sunnah of the prophets to do that, to trim the nails, to remove hair, to do things like this are permissible. We've heard even Aisha radiallahu anha, when asked about removing eyebrows hair and stuff like this, she had said, or facial hair for women, she had said do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mentioned the Maliki ulama, and the same thing, you have to remember, historically, they did not have cosmetic surgery. But the closest example we have is in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. One of the companions, during battle, his nose was cut off. Now we know people historically did things like when their teeth had dropped, they would insert a golden tooth and things like that. But somebody could say, well, that has another function to help with eating and grinding and things like this. But this Sahabi mentions in the hadith, and it's in Abu Dawood and other books as well, وَاتَّخَذَ أَنْفًا مِنَ الذَّهَبِ, and he took a golden nose. So he had a golden nose made like a nose and it stuck onto his face, and it was golden. And this served no function at all, except aesthetics, except to give his face some look. Okay, so it was just aesthetic. And the Prophet never objected to that. This wasn't considered, oh, you're changing the creation of Allah. So the same thing today. So if people feel that, certain things will enhance their confidence in life, it will give them a much more fulfilling and a kind of positive output in life, then they are allowed to enhance in that way. That thus have we understood, and absolute knowledge belongs to Allah alone. Right. Salam Mufti, what's your opinion on Muawiyah radiallahu anh? Be honest, subhanallah. Ya salam. What's my opinion on Muawiyah? Wow. my opinion on Muawiyah is he was one of the greatest people that existed. I mean, I absolutely admire Muawiyah radiallahu an. We are not in any way, first of all, we do not insult any of the companions. It is haram in Islam to attack, abuse any of the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet said in a hadith that people will come, that those of you that come after, were you to get a mountain and give it in charity to help the destitute of gold, a mountain of gold pieces, people. I mean, you'd be as wealthy as Donald Trump. I mean, and you were to give that to the poor people. Can you imagine how happy they would feel? The kind of the burden you would lift from their hearts, the lives you would change and transform, the fact that people, the starving would have food. Can you imagine how much good you'd be able to do? The Prophet said, even if you do that, and one of my companions gave just, like a date, you would not equate to their goodness. Like, they were the first effective community who were necessary for the message of Islam to survive. Through them, it was a make or break deal. We have no business in cursing them, and abuse is haram. Any kind of abuse, and no religion should teach you abuse. It should teach you hatred. No religion should teach you hatred. I say this on several occasions, if by finding God you have found abuse and hatred, then I can assure you, you have not found God. Okay, you found an alter ego, you found something, most likely Odin, the god of war and destruction, right, from the Vikings, but you've not found Allah. That is certain. It is haram. Imam Malik was asked about those people who abused Muawiyah radiallahu an verbally. He said that in his time that they should be inflicted, that basically they should be punished through corporal punishment in his time. Obviously in our time that would be unethical and unacceptable, even Islamically, but they ought to, under Islamic rulings, face some kind of punishment. In this day and age, obviously these rules are only technical and theoretical, so I was just telling you what Imam Malik said, but it would be clearly wrong, okay, to spread hatred for the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. They were great people. Muawiyah was he is termed, Ibn Arabi says, I went to Baghdad, its greatest, they used to be called Madinatul Salam back then. And yeah, Baghdad was one of those cities, right, that they tried to change its name, but it would never stick. So they called it Madinatul Salam, the land of peace, but it just stuck with Baghdad, right? So, which was named after the previous, gods, Bagh, right? So like Bhagwan, like that, Bhagwan, right? So the thing is now, he says, I went to the Grand Masjid and it said, that Abu Bakr and radiallahu, and it had the names of the companions and, the Khalifa to Rasulullah and Umar, Khalifa to Rasulullah and Uthman, and the Uthman was obviously married to the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ, and it mentioned Ali, who was Amir al-Mu'mineen and married to the daughter, and it said, Muawiyah, and it said Muawiyah's name in addition to this, and he said Khalul Mu'mineen, the uncle of the believers, because his wife was married to the Prophet ﷺ. She was his wife, okay, Habiba. So people really have, we shouldn't fall for this kind of emotional propaganda of sometimes the Shia and people like that who try to, because they think Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is a soft target. He's not a soft target. He was an amazing individual. Wallahi, I guarantee you, if you were to read history redacted, you were to remove the names of the companions and just replace them with randomized names and present this to people who had not been exposed to Islamic history, you'd be surprised that many of them would have chosen Muawiyah over many others. You'd be surprised, subhanAllah. It is only through the emotionality that people have been swayed. So they see things like, and they say because Ali fought Muawiyah, this is where this whole problem is coming from. But it's not fair, really. Seriously, it's not fair. Because if you are to be just, look at history. Look at it. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh is one of the greatest companions. We have no, but the truth is that when you look at some of the choices that Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh had kind of arrived at in his time after the assassination of Uthman, they weren't very, even Ibn Abbas condemned him for them and said that even his son Hassan said to him that, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? They were decisions which Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh arrived at, but the truth of the matter is that when he, for example, was given, when the rebels, the insurgents said, we want you to be the next Khalif, he accepted their bay'ah. Firstly, that was problematized. Why did he accept the bay'ah from the insurgents who were involved in the assassination of the Muslim head of state, the Khalifa, the son-in-law of the Prophet Uthman? The next thing was, why did the removal of the governors throughout the Muslim world without their even pledging allegiance to him? He instructed for them to be removed. Now that Ibn Abbas strongly disagreed with him and said, this will only spread disunity and discord throughout the Ummah, and that's exactly what happened. They then refused to accept him because they said, we haven't even pledged our allegiance and you're disposing of us. Now, if you're going to say Muawiyah radiallahu an, then the truth is, before Sayyidina Ali even got into a trouble, before he even got into a clash with Muawiyah, his first clash was with who? It was with the other companions, with Zubayr, who's from the Asharatul Mubashara, Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, with Talha. He fights them. They go to fight. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, right? These great companions with Aisha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. His fight was with them in that battle, the battle of Jamal, which occurs in 36 Hijri. It happens a year before he even fights Muawiyah. If Muawiyah was to be this sly individual that they say Muawiyah was this really, people say, oh, he's really, he was a very, I would say he was a very I don't know if politic is the right word, but he was a very astute individual. There's no denying that, but that's to his credit. He was very kind of like on the ball. And yes, like many people, I'm sure he wouldn't have rejected opportunity. And like many people, he was obviously always, he also admired opportunity. But the truth is, if he was to be as malicious as they say, right, then let's go to 36 Hijri. When Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an, Zubayr and Talha and Aisha, they head to Basra. They do not come to Medina to attack Ali. They head to Basra. They are after the murderers of Uthman because they had sought refuge in Basra, because many of them had come from Basra. Now, when they arrive there, what does Sayyidina Ali do? He assembles an army and goes to Basra to fight them. Now, they did not come to Medina to attack Sayyidina Ali. They had gone to Basra. When Sayyidina Ali goes to Iraq, to Kufa, to gather more of an army with his army, what does his own representative in Kufa, Abu Musa al-Ashari, what does he say to him? He says to him that, Sayyidina Ali, do not do this. His khutbah, he says that, and this is in the history books, he calls the people in the masjid and he says that, here is Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali radiallahu anhu, he's come and he's rallied for a war, and he says, and I've heard the Messenger of Allah say that there will come a time when there is so much fitna, and he says, and the Prophet said, if fitna reaches you, faq'udu, sit away from it. He said, وَإِنِّي قَاعِدٌ فَقْعُدُ, I am sitting. I advise you all to sit it out. Do not join his army. They refuse to join Sayyidina Ali's army. And then he comes again, he makes several pleas with them. He sends Abdullah ibn Abbas to argue, to kind of discuss. They say, look, Abu Musa al-Ashari says to him, look, why are you going to fight them? Like they've got no business with you. Like Zubayr is going to fight those people who killed Uthman. Like why are you going to fight? And Ali says, well, they refused to give me bay'ah. Like they've given me bay'ah that this ought to go through me. It shouldn't go through them. And he says, yeah, but okay, but if you go to fight them, who does it look like you're defending? It looks like you're defending those who murdered Uthman. So does it not look like that? So it does, because, and Sayyidina Ali says, yeah, but I'm not defending them. And he says, it's true, you're not defending them, but does it not look like that? So why would I want to be in a position like that? And then eventually Sayyidina Ali he negotiate, and a certain amount of the army do come and join him. But the interesting thing is, look, one of his second in command, one of the highest, the people who he actually not only puts as part of his army, but gives him a high rank, was Malik al-Ashtar. Malik was one of the people who was involved in the assassination of Uthman. I mean, what is going on? And tell me, was Muawiyah not stable? He was the most stable state. During this time, when Sayyidina Ali takes his army to Basra, right, and they set up camps in front of Zubayr and Aisha's armies. During this time, if Muawiyah wanted, he could have brought armies, and they could have crushed. They could have kind of cornered Sayyidina Ali's army. But does he get him? Muawiyah does not even get involved. That would have been the key time to get involved. If he was just, they say, he must have had a hatred for Sayyidina Ali. If he did, that was the ideal time. Why not get involved then? Right? So the point is, this was the opportunity. But Sayyidina Muawiyah doesn't even get involved. This whole year, 36 Hijri, he is nowhere to be seen on this controversy. It's the year later, because in that year the Battle of the Camel takes place. Because the most strongest contenders were people like Zubayr. And Zubayr, he leaves the whole army thing and goes off and is killed by, admittedly Sayyidina Ali did not instruct for that, but Sayyidina Ali's soldier goes and kills him. And then he comes back and tells Sayyidina Ali, and to be fair, Sayyidina Ali was upset with that decision. And he tells him, I did not tell you to do that. But the other, Talha, who was one of the key, strongest kind of personalities, is murdered. Look at the loss of the Muslim Ummah. And obviously Abdullah ibn Zubayr isn't murdered, but he's injured. He's very, and Malik al-Ashtar, who was on Sayyidina Ali's side, was a feared warrior. I mean, I know that's what Sayyidina Ali says, I have him on my side because I know he's a feared warrior. But the truth is, he was one of the 200 chiefs who was involved in the assassination and insurgency against Uthman. Just because he's got power why is he been put in that position? And were these not the same issues that Muawiyah raised? I'm not saying Muawiyah was not appreciating opportunity. I'm sure he was. But be fair, if you're going to look at things, detach yourself from emotion. It's like when Sayyidina Ali sends, when somebody comes from Sayyidina Ali's side and he tells, and Muawiyah radiallahu anh, in the Battle of Siffin, when they do fight the year later, when he tells Muawiyah that I've come to you and I've got some nasiha for you, and Muawiyah says, what is it? And he says, fear Allah. He says, and think of your akhirah. Is this, and so on and so forth, and he gives him this nasiha. And Muawiyah just listens to it. And then he says to him that, he says, وَهَلْ نَصَحْتَ بِهَا صَاحِبَكَ كَذَلِكَ? He says that, and did you tell this to Sayyidina Ali as well, or you just reserved it for me? And the point was that, look, it was a tragedy that befell this ummah. It was a human tragedy. But to kind of take this romantic picture that, one of them was an absolute villain and the other one was an absolute, it wasn't like that. If it was like that, why would Hassan agree to hand over the Khilafah to Muawiyah? Why would he do this? Would he do this to somebody who was a villain? Tell me, and by the way, in Muawiyah's side fighting with him was Sayyidina Ali's brother. Sayyidina Ali's brother was in Muawiyah's camp fighting against him. Even Hassan's brother, Sayyidina Ali's son, Muhammad Ibn al-Hanafiya, was aligned against their decision, in line with but the point is, look, my point of saying all of this is to kind of bring to our attention that we shouldn't get swayed with emotions. It is an unfortunate tragedy that befell the early part of this ummah. But what happened. For us to now start, and this is why, and do you think it was a coincidence? This is why when Imam Malik was asked that who is the best of people, and he said Abu Bakr, And they said, who after that? And he said, Umar. And they said, who after that? He said, Uthman. And then they said, who after that? And he said, no, everybody is the same. And the person said, what about Ali? And Qadi Iyad brings this in his tartib. And he says, the person who asked for governance is not like he who did not ask for it. Because the truth was, Sayyidina Ali did also go out for it. So you have to be fair. Like, look, they were great people. They were the best of people. And unfortunately, they had arguments which led to, and they made decisions which led to fights as well. And it did lead to battles and things like this, and a loss of life, unfortunately. But the reality is, it wasn't this romantic, heroic picture of one being an absolute hero and the other being a villain. And the truth is, it wasn't even between Ali and Muawiyah. It was between Ali and several Sahabah. But why don't they pick on Zubayr? Because he's not a soft target. Because he's from the Asharatul Mubashara. You can't pick on Zubayr. Why don't they pick on Abdullah ibn Zubayr or Talha or okay, the Shia do pick on Aisha, but the other Sunnis don't. Now, why don't they pick on those other Sahaba who also went against Sayyidina Ali? Because they're not easy targets. So they choose Muawiyah because they think he's an easier target. And the truth is, look, people say, oh, you know, Muawiyah condoned the cursing of Sayyidina Ali and stuff like this. Well, Allahu A'lam, look, as far as I'm aware, that he didn't condone that. He does say, because you have to remember, when Muawiyah was related to Uthman, he was related to him. When Uthman was killed, his wife at the time, Naila, her hand was cut off because she tries to save him, right? And they cut her hand off. She takes her hand and she puts it in his shirt, and she writes a letter with it and sends it to Muawiyah and says, لَقَدْ وَلَّيْنَاكَ دَمَ عُثْمَانَ. We have put the responsibility of a vengeance in your hands, because you are awliya, you are from the awliya al-maqtul, you are from his relatives. And they say Muawiyah radiallahu anhu hung his shirt behind the minbar and said that, look what's happened in Medina. Now the truth is, look, sure, there may have been other political kind of gains along the way and stuff like, but don't just paint a dark picture of, oh, this is pure bad guy, pure good guy. It doesn't work like that. History, if you redacted the names and just read the story to somebody with just fake names, I guarantee you the results would be very different. The truth is, it's just because people say, well, oh, this is the cousin of the Prophet, they get all emotional. Now, look, the Prophet ﷺ, and Imam Malik said this as well, and he reiterated it on many occasions. He said that, and it is a hadith attributed to the Prophet, that the final hour will not come until the last of this ummah curse the first of this ummah. And people have started doing that. All I can say is, look, some people hearing this might get upset. Look, it doesn't bother me whether you get upset. What I'm saying is, like, you read history, read it, and, you know, don't be emotional, be rational. Or if you got somebody who's not even involved, a non-Muslim, to read it, do you really think they would arrive at the same decision you would? The truth is, they wouldn't. There's too much emotionality involved, right? And the way I see things is that, look, what's happened has happened. We can't change history. But one thing I can say is abuse is wrong. Don't curse people. Don't swear at them. Don't call them like, oh, just because, oh, you fought Sayyidina Ali, I'm going to call you a liar, or I'm going to call you a kaafir, or I'm going to call you this or that. Why are you doing that? Like, what do you get out of cursing people? What do you get out of, trying to malign people and to call them names and to call them things? There's nothing to get out of it. The truth is, these people were close to the Prophet. They were much closer than you and I will be. If you're talking about Muawiyah, his sister was married to the Prophet. I mean, that's close. Okay. So anyway, I hope that's of some help. Okay. So let's get enough of this kind of talk. I'd like to actually tackle the question that, look, this, because it leads to a question. I'll come to some of these questions. That look, what is religion for people? And what is it for people? Seriously, I mean, how many people really care about what religion actually? Like, Islam for different people just means different things, doesn't it? Like, it just means, but it just means like little, petty little things. Like, to some people, Islam is just an ethnicity. Like, I'm just Muslim. It's like I'm Pakistani. I'm a Muslim. I just want rights, and I'm all about, as long as I have rights. Being a Muslim, I have rights. And some people, and look, and don't get me wrong, we need an activism angle out there. But to some people, it's just an ethnicity. They don't even know, for example, what we believe. They don't even care. To some people, Islam is just about, it's just about emotions. Like the Shia, it's just, the whole Rafidi da'wah is all about emotions and just gathering things around tragedies, and I'm just crying about them. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, is that what God, is that why God created, just to cry over people, lament over them? Didn't Allah have a reason for you being on this dunya? So, it's all about just ma'atam and just sorrow, and it's very like it's a boring version of goth. Of being a goth, isn't it? That's all. And to some people, Islam, it's like, it just gives them a belonging. Like, we just want to be part of a greater group, and as long as we're part of something, and they invest so much in being part of that thing that they can never question it. Like, what happened to the real, what Islam is actually meant to be about? And then people will believe any absurd nonsense you give them in the name of religion. And as long as it's rubber stamped with religion, they're not allowed to question it. It's just, right, it's, just digest it as it is. And it's crazy. It's no wonder people are like so distancing themselves from organized religion. Because it's just a way to rally the masses through emotion and through idiotic beliefs. And I was hearing these stupid stories people say, and it's from all, you get this regardless. It's not aimed at any denomination, but you get ridiculous kind of things going on. People saying things from stupid stories about holy people doing all sorts of super powers and ridiculous powers, and Sheikh, attributing things to Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani and stuff like this, or just ridiculous stuff. And people all buy it. And you'll get people, right now, there's this, you get these clips going around on Facebook of the Chuff Beer, and, people around him doing that, Jim. I don't know if that's dubbed or not, but this kind of stuff, and this is religion for people. What the hell? What is that? Like, look, do whatever you want. But what is this, man? For God's sake, is that? And then you'll get people like that. You'll get like idiots on the, you get different people saying, condemning everybody to hell. It's all about control. You're going to hell. You're going to hell. You're going to hell. Heard one person, the famous quote of that Saudi sheikh, if the world was spinning the way it was, and if an aeroplane goes up, and then the earth's supposed to carry on moving, and then why, China should just, it ought to just come to you, isn't it? Well, no, it isn't. You retard, because you're still within the atmosphere. So you're moving with it, you retard, But this is what I mean. When people try to talk physics, but they, their education is restricted to the bloody Saudi madrasa system. Like, you can't talk physics because you don't understand physics. So the thing is, look, you have people saying stuff like this. You have people, what is going on? Seriously, what is going on? And it's disheartening to see all this kind of stuff, because people lose their faith with this. I heard this kind of story of like, anybody who disrespects the awliya, this happens to them and that happens to them, and these awliya were flying, and then one day one of them disrespected Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, and so he fell and crashed and broke his arms and legs. And I mean, what is that? Like, what, you actually believe that? Like, do you believe that people fly around and you expect people to believe that? And then you expect people not to laugh at Islam. Ya salam, ya salam. Seriously, we as Muslims have got our work cut out for us, man. Because it's difficult. It's difficult trying to show the voice of reason when we're polluting the whole thing with our nonsense. This, subhanallah, it's so, and I see sometimes people, you know, I saw this thing, sometimes some of these imams and stuff like this, and people will say, oh, great imam, mashallah, they may be great in their own way, whatever, and they'll say, an expert in atheism. Mate, you're having a laugh, expert in atheism. Grant me 5 minutes of playing just devil's advocate with you. 5 minutes, I would not ask more. I would destroy every ounce of what you stand on. I mean, seriously, I don't know what you think. I don't know how lightly people take these things like atheism. It's not a joke. These people, they would destroy your arguments. And people, you know, here's a sheikh and they just want to exaggerate and they say, mashallah, this guy is an expert in refuting evolution. You think, in refuting atheism, in refuting this kind of, you think, really, I don't know what stuff it is that you're smoking. you need to get off it, man. Anyway, let's take some more questions, man. Let's take some more questions. That's enough of that. Let's see where we've got to with the questions. In the Maliki Madhhab, how does one perform Sajda Sahw? Okay, Sajda Sahw in the Maliki Madhhab, the school of Medina, there's two types of Sajda Sahw. Sajda Sahw repairs the Salah for any shortcoming or addition as long as you have not violated the major pillars of Salah. Okay, the arkan or the obligatory acts. But basically by if you've taken an action away, you reduced a sunnah, you do your sujood sahw after tashahhud, after at-tahiyyat, before doing salam. And if you've increased, you do your salam first and then do sujood sahw. But I will have a video, I've completed a video dedicated to this, which we will have out inshallah soon, so you can watch that for more detail. Okay, if a Muslim left Islam and came back to Islam later on in his life, will he still be rewarded for the good deeds he did before? That's a good question. There is ikhtilaf. Many of the ulama feel that he won't, and others have argued that he will. Those that say he won't use verses of the Quran like faqad, you know, whoever basically denies Allah, faqad ahbata amala, that he has destroyed and nullified his actions. And those who say that these rewards still exist use evidences like when people like the tribe of Bani Hanifa, once they apostated in the time of Abu Bakr, then many of them returned to Islam. They were not asked to renew their nikah and things like that, so it meant that it still stood. Neither were they asked to redo Hajj and things like this. So I personally believe that they will still have their rewards. And the journey to faith truly is a difficult one for people who take their faith seriously and think a lot. Because through the lens of critical thought, faith is really tested. Okay, so I don't think we should really attack people like that. We should be overwhelmingly understanding of their struggle. Smoking, sometimes marijuana, is that permitted according to Islam? Well, I've answered this before, Elias, and that you can check my previous sessions on that. The thing is, as I've said, in my understanding, this is more a mas'ala of legality than it is of theology. Okay, so I don't believe Islam is the issue here, in my understanding. Although I don't encourage people, and I do discourage people from smoking altogether. I think we should take care of our health. It is a great blessing. As the Prophet said, it is two of the things which people so overlook, and that is good health and free time. Okay, so I definitely discourage people, but I don't personally believe it's a matter of being haram. I believe it's more a matter of being illegal. Is the adhan necessary for prayers at home? It's Kimberly, that's not necessary for you to look at that. Furqan saying it looks like you got golf balls. Hell yeah, look at that. Slick though, you gotta say, slick. Right now, the adhan is not necessary if jama'ah is not intended. So if you do not intend jama'ah, then it is not necessary, and it is, I mean, in fact, in the Maliki method, they will, you know, many ulama, there is a difference of opinion, but many will say you don't need to do the adhan, but if you do it, it's good, but there's no harm in not doing it. Salam, is it essential to believe that Isa alayhi salam will return? What if someone doesn't believe that? Is he out of Islam? Rahil, very good question. You're not out of Islam. Islam is not built upon the belief that Isa alayhi salam will return. This is a sub-belief. In my understanding, by believing in the main beliefs, the qawati, the kind of pillars, the foundations of Islam, if you like, these are the pillars that hold up faith. So things like believing in Allah, His messengers, His books, angels, believing that Allah is in absolute control, you know, whether that's believing in destiny, right, in life after death. These are the pillars, the hereafter of faith. Now other things are like inscriptions on these pillars, if you like. So they give detail to the pillars, but the thing does not collapse without them. Okay, so when you say we believe in the messenger, that does mean, so obviously when you say we believe in Allah, it does mean that what the kind of the essence of that. So obviously we believe Allah is one. So you can't say I believe in Allah but I believe Allah is 4 different people. That obviously is nonsense. So when that pillar of Allah is that He is one, okay, and He is God, He is the ultimate. That has to be, that's the essence of the pillar. So when we believe in the messengers, we believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being as he was, which is the final of all messengers. That is the essence of that pillar. We believe in the Quran being the final of these line of scriptures. That is the essence. So that's what we mean by these pillars. Now other things are just like inscriptions and that are added on. So when we say, well, you know, we believe in, let's say the hereafter, okay, for the hereafter to come there will be obviously an apocalypse. Now there will be, prior to the apocalypse, there will be signs and things like that, and from the signs generally people believe in the second coming of Isa alayhi salam. But if a person did not believe that, he's still Muslim. Okay, so you can't say, oh my God, you're a kaafir if you don't believe that. So okay, I hope that helps. Let's take the next. Can women attend the burial in the graveyard? Hamza, alright, are you allowed to pray Salah in the graveyard if time has come? Okay, 2 questions there. So yes, women can attend the burial. There's nothing wrong with women attending the burial. And that hadith where the Prophet ﷺ had forbade women from going, that was in early Islam. And the Prophet says in a hadith, كُنْتُ قَدْ نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْ زِيَارَةِ الْقُبُورِ أَلَا فَزُورُوهَا, go visit them. Right, he says, فَإِنَّهَا تُذَكِّرُكُمْ بِالْمَوْتِ, that they remind you of the hereafter. So women can go, and many people have spoken about that, and Ibn Abdul Bar, and from, you know, the legendary Maliki scholar from Muslim Spain, and many people, and they've mentioned that that's permissible. That when the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ forbade certain women was once again due to certain things that they were just going out of control. So when you go, there's etiquettes to things. So if a woman, basically, look, if there's a funeral going on, you don't need a scene. Like, obviously there's going to be a certain level of a scene because people are gathering around, people are upset. But you don't need, like, you know, like sometimes people will start all the way from and all this kind of super drama, melodramatic kind of Oscar-nominated performances. We don't need a Yash Raj production going on. Well, he's not the Gothic one. Who's the Gothic one? The Bollywood Anyway, he's the romantic one. There's another, but anyway, we don't need one of those productions. So the thing is, this is why the Prophet ﷺ told some women off from going, because obviously, doing things like if they're going to go out of control and start ripping their clothes, and the custom of the Arabs in the time of the Prophet was the women would rip their clothes. Okay, some of you guys don't get any wrong ideas. That was that custom. It's not a custom today. So, but the women would rip their clothes, right? They would. This is the jabe, the hole that they would kind of fit their head through, and the women would kind of rip that. As the poet says to his daughter, that he says, "Idha ana mittu fan'ini bima ana ahlu." What's the point? وَشُقِّي عَلَيَّ الْجَيْبَ يَبْنَةَ مَعْبَدِ, and tear your clothes over me, O daughter of Ma'bad. So the thing is, the women would do that. They would rip their clothes and they would kind of slap themselves and ow. Not just the aftershave, but so this is why the Prophet ﷺ forbade these things, okay? A lot of the Deen, really, when you come down to it, it all makes sense. It's just about knowing the reasons. Right, some of those angry faces, right? So, Sanjay Leela Bansali, haha, Hassan Azza, you naughty. That's the one, the Bollywood Gothic producer or director. Right, so, As-salam, I heard you can't go to Umrah, Hajj if you have any debts. Is this true? Does it include university loans? Love you, Mufti Sahw, from my fake account. Well, right back at you, okay? So the thing is, yes, you can go on Hajj and Umrah with debts. What this meant was about prioritizing. Okay, see, once again, it all makes sense. It beautifully makes sense. So look, the Deen was about being, like sometimes you get people who are, they kind of theologically autistic. And this is not a diss to any people suffering from autism. May Allah make your struggle easy, and may He fill your lives with abundant blessings. But there are people who are theologically autistic. They're just super weird when it comes to religion. And a lot of the Saudi teachings happen to be like that as well. But the thing is, so here's a person, for example, let's say I've borrowed some money from you, and now you ask me for it back, and I've got the money. Okay, one is I haven't got the money, so okay, fair enough. But one is I've got the money, and I'm supposed to give it back to you, it's due, and then I say, oh, ya akhi, I must, what is it? وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ, I must obey Allah and go on the Hajj. Allah, my calling is here. And the guy is thinking, what the hell is wrong with you, bro? You owe me money. So I'm thinking, ya akhi, I must go, and I'm sorry. I know I've got your money, but I'm going to go now spend it on now it's time to be religious. So the Prophet said, look, matalul ghani haram. That if you've got the money, then don't play games. Okay, it's another thing you haven't got it. That's different. And then the Prophet advised people, okay, try and be compassionate with the person. But one is, you've got it. Don't try to use religion. Because when you use religion, what happens? Now tell me what's going to happen in your heart. Okay, one, you're going to be peeved off and annoyed at me. But two, what else are you going to get annoyed at? You're going to get annoyed at religion. Because I'm putting religion in your face. So you will start to despise religion. So the Prophet was teaching us that don't do these things. People will end up hating religion. They will, I'm sick to death of, because if you keep saying, and this is why people, when you have your personal issues with people, and this could be between parent, children, friends, it could be between husband, wife, it could be between whatever. Don't use religion to justify your nonsense. Okay? Do not use religion, people. Right? You have no right to use religion. So, people will do things like when they don't like somebody, they'll try and use religious things to get one over them. Like, you do this and this is haram. See, don't do that. Because just say what your issue is. Just have, if you got beef with people or issues with them, just have your issues with them. Like if you say, look, listen, I don't like the way you did that. I don't like the way you disrespected me with this, or I don't like the way you broke this of mine, or I don't like, just be upfront with people. Don't say, you don't even pray. Like, don't use religion, because what it does is it creates hatred in the hearts of the other people for religion. Same thing with children. People try to discipline their children sometimes, and they try to use the religious thing. Don't do that, because it's going to create, one, hatred for religion, and two, it's going to show double standards. Because people are going, don't think kids are stupid. They're going to think, well, not like you really care. I don't see you doing A, B, and C. So why are you using Allah when it suits you? And people are not stupid, and people see that. So don't misuse religion, okay? So this debt thing, of course you can do Hajj. Right, okay, next question. Have any friends... Right, Sunnah about... right, can't read that question properly. Right, Salman, thanks for the good work. Or can you help with proofs from Quran about eating only meat that is Zabiha? You see, like Allah says in the Quran, halalan tayyiban, that eat what is halalan tayyiban, and there's several verses in the Quran, حُرِّمَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ وَمَا أُهِلَّ بِهِ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ, and so on. And and Allah mentions in the Quran, وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ وَالْمَوْقُوذَةُ وَالْمُتَرَدِّيَةُ وَالنَّطِيحَةُ وَمَا أَكَلُ السَّبْعُ, and these things that which was injured and died or fell or was killed, and these things are haram, and what has been made halal, that what has been sacrificed in the name of Allah, and we call that Zabiha. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that man istaqbala qiblatana wa salla salatana wa akala dhabihatana fadhalika al-muslim, that whosoever faces our qibla, prays our prayer, eats from our dhabiha meat, then that is a Muslim. See, look how the Prophet tried to give us identity. He tried to give us identity through worship and through a social custom of meat, which would unify the entire globe. Regardless of your cultures, you would eat a meat in a similar way. And that was enough. And then we go along and try to make our own, superimpose our own pathetic type of identity of, no, everybody must wear a bloody topi, and everybody must have wuzu chappal on, wear these kind of flip-flops, and everybody must... You see, this was not the way of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet gave us a particular type of identity, that your identity becomes... How do I know you're Muslim? Well, how you pray, it will manifest. And you eat a particular kind of food. So it's enough to be like everybody wherever you are, but at the same time have that special quality about you. That is awesome. Like, look how the Prophet ﷺ did that. Amazing. Like, you are still a part of wherever you are, but at the same time you have a connection with the whole globe of Islam. Now that is beautiful. The way people have done it, just tried to Arabicize the whole world. I know everybody dressed like an Arab, or I know everybody just dressed like in shalwar kameez, like just pacify the whole world. And this was not Islam. Okay, that was not what an Islamic identity. All right, let's take the next question, people. Right. Okay. So, does science have an answer for consciousness? All right, David Ansar. If they can explain biology, they have not explained the ability humans have to think and make decisions. That's a very awesome question about consciousness. Consciousness at the level that we have, like self-consciousness, the fact that we can think and plan. This is very Homo sapien. It's very modern man. We have these kind of cognitive faculties. Now, I mean, there's obviously science is working on it, psychology is working on it. There's been studies on what they call the neural correlates of consciousness. So when you become conscious, there's certain neural activity that takes place. What is interesting as well is studies like You know those kind of pictures you get that are dual pictures, so you can either see the young woman or the old woman depending on how you look at it, or so. What's interesting is you can't look at them both at the same time, because only one of them can enter your stream of consciousness. So what's interesting is as you flip and look at the other one, you see the other one, it's in the same picture, what neural activity takes place. And these kind of things have been monitored through fMRI and through other, PET scans, CAT scans, through other loads of electroencephalograms, and they've been trying to. It's interesting. There is a lot of work going on, but it's difficult. It is obviously the greatest thing that Allah has given insan. This kind of this aql, this ability to reason, this ability. In fact, Homo sapien. Homo just means not that homo, but it means homo means of the genus human, okay, and the species that we are is sapien, which is wise, okay, based on reasoning. So there was, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalis, there's Homo heidelbergensis, Homo habilis, Homo, loads of these kind of homo, these humans, kind of family, if you like, which, as Dr. Abdul Sabur Shaheen in his book highlights, that they were bashar, but Adam was the first insan. So Homo sapien was the first, is insan. And although all of them are bashar. So I hope that's, but it's interesting. Right, are nootropic supplements halal? I'm not sure. Nootropic? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Smiley. If you mean generally supplements, of course supplements are halal, inshallah, as long as they don't have haram in them. Laila Sukul has a question. If a woman has depression and big issues, difficulties with wearing the hijab, would it still be obligatory for her to wear it? Look, each to their own. You are the best judge. If you are going through certain struggles, right, if it's very difficult for you to wear the hijab, then it's your choice. Look, Allah is more understanding than you can be of your situation, right? The key thing you have to remember that Allah was speaking about initially was modesty. That's what this whole thing was about. It was not about a uniform. It was not about a ritual. It was about modesty. Now, if you're struggling with wearing a headscarf or whatever, but because of your environment in the West, especially the Islamophobic type of things going on, and attacks and assaults and insults, but you can still dress modestly, then fine, it's your call. Okay, don't let people kind of put you down. Okay, it's not, people just love to exert control. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't she wearing a hijab? Why aren't he doing this? It's none of their business. Okay, it's none of their business. Okay, so don't let people put you down like that. Right. Okay. I'm trying to flick through these. What's the awrah for men when they wear football shorts and things like that? Well, the general awrah is between the navel to the knees. That's the extended awrah, and then there is a core awrah. Okay, and the core awrah for men is the private parts and the rectum, and that is the core awrah. That under no circumstances can be uncovered. I say under no circumstances voluntarily, as in just for exposure. Obviously, if there was a reason, then it can be uncovered, like obviously medical reasons or other things. But that's what the priority is, absolute priority to cover. The extended awrah is up to the knee. These things can be compromised based on whatever circumstances. So the thigh is debated within the madhhab anyway. And some of the ulama did not consider it, and I believe Abu Bakr ibn Arabi has a discussion on that as well. And the hadith that the Prophet, when he was riding the camel, his thigh would be exposed on several occasions and things like that. So it's not that much of a big deal. Okay, but generally, if you can cover it. If you're in a sport, then I don't feel that it's too much of a big deal. Okay. Jazakallah khair, Mufti Sahb. He's not reading comments. I am, Faisal. I'm reading them. How were the best of people when they fought over power like that? Veneer. It's interesting because, look, best in different aspects. Okay, look, they were just like you, human, all too human. So it's like saying, you can be an incredible person,
You can be an amazing person in one aspect and yet get caught up in other. So you could have somebody so awesome, right? Like I give you, many a times I deal with people going through divorces and things like this. Now, you'll see sometimes somebody so intelligent, so they could be a surgeon, a consultant, a barrister, a doctor, really intelligent people, and sometimes they'll do the most stupidest of things that you'll hear. I mean, I'm not judging them, but I'm just being honest. I mean, you'll think to yourself, why on earth in a relationship would you do something like this? Like, I don't understand. And I don't mean like them necessarily cheating or something, but I mean just the way they interact with each other. And sometimes people are just so dumb in some things. Like, I use the word dumb, but to them, they're still very intelligent people. Now, what I'm trying to say is that today, I'm trying to give you an example that sometimes in some things, you may handle them in an emotional way. Like your emotions may get the better of you. But yet, you may be an incredible person. Like, you may be Einstein. Okay, but it doesn't mean, for example, you may still fall out with your friends over something, which is just human, all too human. So, yes, you can, when we say that, look, these things happened with the Sahabah, they were human aspects of them. But when we say they were incredible people and the best of people, it was in the general aspect of them. They did succeed as the first effective community. The first effective community was a make or break deal. Islam would have either died with them or it would have flourished through them. And it only flourished because of them. Those who made the first leap, really, the credit goes back to them, So that's, as the poet says, he says, لكن بكت قبلي فهيج لي البكاء بكاها فقلت الفضل للمتقدم. That, he says, but she cried before me and her crying made me cry. So I have to say that the credit goes to the one who set about it first. So the point is that it is it doesn't detract from them being great. Okay. Can someone listen to the Quran while his awrah is uncovered? Not necessarily naked, just wearing shorts and things like. Yes, you can. That's absolutely fine. Coca-Cola, not good for you. You're right. This is Pepsi Max. I go with the diet version. Can't have all that sugar. I've given up on sugar. I just take sweeteners. All right. So let's see. Should an addict stop Salah? What? Using addict, I mean. I'm not sure what that means, Robin. If you mean by that their Salah is not valid, I disagree. Their Salah is valid. Just because a person has addictions does not mean that their Salah is not valid. Their Salah is valid. You see, when the Prophet, these kind of things are, people say, oh, the prayer of a person, an alcoholic, isn't accepted for 40 days. Of course it's accepted for 40 days. It's accepted. The thing is, this was a deterrent. It's meant to kind of discourage you. It's not meant, people say, oh, well, I've drank now, so I might as well not pray for 40 days. That's nonsense. Okay, that's not the purpose. What do you think the way forward for Muslims in America is? What advice to contribute to society out there? Avni, I would say, look, by being decent human beings, which I'm sure you guys are, it's not like, don't try to be these kind of, look, people, الناس أعداء لما جهلوا. When you find something that you don't understand, you will be easily opposed to it. That's a proverb in Arabic, right? So obviously people are frightened of Muslims because obviously, one, the media isn't helping. Two, how the kind of agenda going on in some nutcases. And then you see, Muslims are hell-bent on persisting to remain and be like immigrants in these countries. I don't know why they do that. Like, they feel we have to dress like we have to. And look, I've got nothing against wearing shalwar kameez or wearing the thobe, but be normal as well. There's nothing, like, if you're going to be hell bent on that, it's like I say, that imagine take a Muslim country, any Muslim country, and imagine there were Hindus living there. So let's take something like Pakistan or Saudi Arabia or even Morocco or Egypt or anywhere. Right, take any Muslim country and imagine the Hindus would only walk around in their orange kind of Swami suits. Okay. And now, okay, they were immigrants, but let's say their children who were born and raised and spoke Arabic or spoke Urdu or but they only walk around with their Swami suits and their, tikka and stuff like this. How would you feel towards these people? Be honest with yourself. You would feel that why they're trying to make a political statement that they're not from here. Like, you would have some reservation. Just be honest. And the truth is, that's all that people here have as well. They have reservations. Like, why are these people trying so hard to not be from here? Like, why do they hate us that much? This is the question. What is your views on supporting the civil rights of the LGBTQ? Oh, is there a Q at the end as well? Community. The thing, Hassan, is that I believe we should support their rights where something is going on. I'm not saying we have to attend all the gay prides, to put on our uniform costume. Our rainbow uniform. But look, if this is their way of life, this is their way of life. We ought to respect that. Imam Malik, when he was asked, Imam Malik was asked, that what do you say, should we get involved if somebody's committing incest? And this is where in Medina, in the city of the Prophet and its outskirts, where Muslims had absolute authority. According to us, according to the Malikiyah, it is the most sacred place on earth above Mecca. Right, that's Imam Malik's understanding and the school of Medina. So when Imam Malik was asked by his students, should we get involved? He said no. He said if that's how they see their way of life, then that's how they see their way of life. And the student was like, what the hell's wrong with Imam Malik? And Imam Malik said that Inna Allah qad aqarrahum ala akbar min dhalik. He said Allah has been more tolerant of them with what is worse than that. And that is that they ascribe partners unto Allah, which is, Imam Malik said, is worse in the eyes of Allah than incest. And he said that yet Allah has been tolerant, so who are we to be intolerant? If people see homosexuality as their way of life, okay, Islam and most religions, organized religions, will not accept it as a valid ceremony of union. Okay, that's religions, but if people see it as a way of life, then we have to respect them as a way of life. We shouldn't kind of be homophobic, and we shouldn't be, and if there is like within universities or things like this, they are struggling for their rights, then Muslims should support them. Okay? They should stand, I would say, shoulder to shoulder rather than behind them. Rather than, it gives a whole new meaning to the word leading from behind. Right, so anyway, let's right, okay. Guys, I'm taking up too much of your times. Are all Shia kafirs? Look, Shia are not kafir. I'm not saying Shia are kafir, okay? I won't lie to you. I completely abhor the culture which is found in many groups, not just the Shia, but commonly found amongst the Shia, of abuse, of abusing the companions and abusing the wives of the Prophet. Surely the Prophet was close to his wives. Why would you abuse them? Any religion that teaches hatred and abuse, to me, is no religion at all. That said, that's from that perspective that I, as a human being, abhor that. Okay, that you're teaching hatred. But as far as them being Muslims, I wouldn't say they're not Muslims. Sure, I mean, if they, they believe in Allah and believe in His messengers and stuff like that, fine. I mean, they're Muslim. But I just find that a kind of an abominable way to teach such a message of Islam through hatred. But I wouldn't say, and I actually equally abhor this culture of anathematizing people, calling people kaafir, 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 trigger happy, kaafir, kaafir, kaafir. I mean, we have no right to declare people kuffar. I love what Maulana Tariq Jamil Saab said. He goes kaafir. He goes kam pad gaye kya? Like he goes have we started to run out of kuffar that we need to chuck more Muslims out of Islam?
Right, okay. So does it mean we eat non-Zabiha meat that take you away from Islam? Okay, Furqan, it's not that it takes you away from Islam by eating non-Zabiha meat, but it is the identity of a Muslim. Okay, to eat Zabiha meat. Right, I take it is that all the questions that I've had sent to me? Right, okay, here's a question. Stay away from... right, Sheikh, please help understanding PCP, car contract, monthly payment direct with Toyota Finance, includes 5% interest. I can renew, return car. Oh, it's so long. But I take it it's to do with loans and interest. Look, I have answered this before. I do believe that the interest in the Quran, Riba, does not in my understanding, it does not reflect the systems we have in place today to do with loans or mortgages. I have answered this in much more detail previously. I don't want to go through the whole thing, so please check them up. Hopefully they should be loaded on YouTube as well. So they will be loaded on YouTube as well, and so you can search for them there. I have answered. I do have an audio lecture on Riba as well on Facebook. If you run a search for Riba or interest, it should come up. It is a long look. The whole topic of interest, in my understanding, was to do with exploitation, and I know that exploitation still does exist, but it's not on that kind that the Quran was addressing. That was more speaking about what do we call it? Loan shark culture. That was a loan shark culture with no safety parameters. And it was leading to ridiculous, and this is why it was declared, had war declared on it by Allah, and it was deemed worse than murder. Today, these kind of finance programs and things like this all operate within greater parameters of safety nets. First of all, they're not, I mean, they obviously do, they have some level, you could call it extortion, but it's not extortion really on that level. I know the loan sharks, some credit cards do charge thousands of percents, but these places usually just have a minimum certain percentage over the years. The other thing is, if you can't afford to pay, there's several structures in place what you can default to. Okay, there's several debt management programs in place. There's things, there's obviously options to declare bankruptcy, to declare insolvency, to declare all these things which will protect you. So it does not have that same, and then you have to remember, unless you, yeah, people would say, well, why don't you go to a interest-free option? Sure, I mean, every person, an idiot would say, I'd rather pay back more. Everybody wants to just pay back the same amount. The truth is, you don't have the option sometimes, okay? So that's why I don't feel that mortgages and things like that do apply. That's my understanding, and people are at liberty to disagree. And I have answered in much more detail previously. Right, so, okay, let's take one last questions. If bankruptcy is declared, are you still liable for the money in the akhirah? You see, in my understanding, bankruptcy and things like this, you see, when you take out loans, you take them out in the fine print, and the greater narrative is that bankruptcy is always an option. Whether the person discusses it or not, it is understood, and as the hadith says, that al-muslimuna ala shurutihim, that Muslims, when you engage, you are on your conditions, which are in the greater narrative. And according to the usuli principle, the legal theory principle, al-ma'ruf kal-mashrut, what is known is stipulated. So when we transact, we know. So when you go to a shop, you transact in a shop, whether the shopkeeper says it or not, you know you have a right to refund. That is your civil right. So you are operating within that. Now, somebody asked, they're not extortionate. You see, it depends. Because look, people say, well, taking out a mortgage, some can be, but some are not necessarily. Like, you see, you could take out a mortgage, but then paying rent is sometimes more expensive than a mortgage. And if you default on rent, you will be kicked out and evicted much quicker than with a mortgage. In fact, it is in the bank's interest to negotiate with you. And they would actually give you up to a year even to have concessionary payments.
And that is known and is actually part of the bank's policy, and they would have to take you to court first, and the courts would actually rule in your favor, and they would allow you to have concessionary payments. That's actually part of your rights, whereas when it's a private landlord, it's not part of your rights. So you would, because the banks have a certain amount of duty of care to the customers. Now, that is not the same as a private landlord. So private landlord has the right to his own property. So private landlord could evict you within 2 months, no questions asked. You could be evicted. So if you're asking me what leaves you more vulnerable, I don't know, you see, because it's not necessary. And then having assets for Muslims is a good thing because it contributes to the economy, it contributes to stabilizing the Muslim communities. It also allows you to dictate where you live. It also allows you to, I mean, look, I'm not telling people to take mortgages. I'm saying I don't believe it's haram. Okay, that's my understanding. And you can listen to the other lecture for more detail. You would never ask your mechanic to perform heart surgery. So why would you ask a theologian what interest means? Makes no sense. I'm not sure by that. If you mean, I'm not sure what that is. If that's aimed at me, I mean, I have some understanding. Okay, I'm not an expert on economics, but I think we understand things like interest and stuff like that. My lecture on interest is coming from the Islamic perspective on why people claim it to be haram and why that doesn't apply. Okay, people, right, so let's see any quick questions. Right, answer the question about manzil. What does manzil mean? What a joke. Riba is riba, whatever you name it. Kausar Hussein, I would love for you to come and sit in front of me and discuss with me about riba. Or bring a sheikh. Okay, bring a sheikh. I would love for them. I would ask them what riba is. Okay, and why have people never agreed on what riba was and where riba is involved? In the hadith of the 6 items, why have they never agreed on the 6 items? Why was Sayyidina Umar say, I wish one of the things the Prophet had explained more was riba? When Allah says in the Quran, Halallahu al-bay' wa harrama al-riba, the alif lam with riba, what does that refer to? Does it refer to Jami' al-Jins? If so, then why would you agree that riba is in everything then? Why is it nobody says, if I gave you 1 mobile phone for 2 mobile phones, nobody considers that riba? Nobody. Tell me, is that not riba? The verse of the Quran says riba. Why is that not riba? Nobody considers that. If I swap my 1 vehicle for your 3 vehicles, nobody says that's riba. Why is it not riba? You see, all of a sudden riba seems to not be so apparent. Tell me, do fruits have riba? If I swapped 3 apples for 5 apples, is that riba? What if I swapped 3 apples for 2 oranges? Is that riba? Why all of a sudden do you not have an understanding of riba anymore? Why is it that when people borrow, you know, in the verse of the Quran that وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ, and those who prevent neighborly assistance, when you borrow from your neighbor, and this happens all over the world, hey, listen, I'm out of sugar, can you give me some sugar? Yeah, here's a bowl. And next day you return a bowl. Tell me, was there not riba that took place? It was the same category. Did you give the exact amount, every single grain? Was it the same? No. Why do people allow this kind of riba? Why did the ulama say that riba was okay? Mujazafatan. They call it mujazafa. Why was that okay? Oh, so all of a sudden it's not so clear anymore. Why is it? Wait a minute. Why are you allowed to buy different currencies at different rates? What, is there no riba in that? Right. Oh, I'm sorry. It just got, something just got real. Right. So the thing is that it just got a bit more complicated all of a sudden. I'd like you to answer my questions. Why do they consider, by the way, did you know that if I bartered with you, so I gave you what's in the hadith, wheat for salt, and we didn't do it right now, so I gave you 1 kilo of wheat for whatever, 2 kilos of salt, but you said you're going to give me the salt tomorrow, that's riba? That is, ask your scholar, he's going to say that's riba. Then ask him to explain to you, why is that riba? And you know what he'll say? I don't know. So, you see, so when you say riba is riba, right? Riba is riba.
please tell me what riba is. Right? Because it's a good thing God explained it to you, because obviously it wasn't explained to the other people. So now you're going to say, well, riba was a specific kind. Exactly. It was the highly extortive kind, the highly oppressive kind that was leading to the deaths and suicides of people. It was that kind. Right? So, thank you. So before you preach down to me, right, humble yourself. Because I reassure you, you definitely don't know what you're talking about. Alright. You know I still Allahu Akbar. It's still there, I still got it. That's the thing, huh? अब जिसके जी में आए इससे ले रोशनी, हमने तो दिल जलाकर सरेआम रख दिया. Right, people, let's leave it with that, man. Let's call it a night, inshallah. It's been awesome, as always. Inshallah, keep your questions coming. You can get in touch with me on Facebook. You can message me. I do try to get back to people. I try and send them voice notes when I can. You can contact me through Twitter. If you're on Twitter, add me, follow me. Snapchat, add me. My name is Malm, M-A-L-M 2014 2014. That's Malm 2014. I've been off for a week. I know I took a week out. Needed to be done, right? But I'm back, so I will be back on Snapchat as well, answering, giving some of those snap wars. Till then, people, I've also shared an Andalus video, a course. It's on my Facebook page. I shared it today. It's a free course for you all. It's 12 lectures. It's actually 13, but one of them is divided in two, of lectures on the history of Al-Andalus from rise to fall, the awesome kind of empire that it was. It is a course I did several years back, so and it was a course I was doing live online, so there's sometimes I'm answering people's questions and stuff, but it's definitely worthwhile listening to. Take some time out. It's free. Check it out, download it, like it, share it, get it out there, benefit from it, inshallah. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you all, inshallah, next week. Till then, take good care of yourselves. You should remember me in your du'as. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.